You know what keeps me up at night? It's not the big trades that make headlines or the massive contracts that break the internet. It's the quiet moves, the ones that slip through while everyone's looking the other way. And right now, something's brewing in Los Angeles that has my attention locked in. The Dodgers aren't just tinkering around the edges this offseason. They're making calculated decisions that could define the next few seasons. And honestly, some of these moves have me questioning everything I thought I knew about their strategy. Let me paint you a picture of where we are right now. The 2025 season ended with that familiar ache, that feeling when you know your team had the pieces but couldn't quite put them together when it mattered most. The bullpen struggled. We all saw it. Those late innings that should have been automatic turned into nail biters. And by the time October rolled around, the relief corps just didn't have the depth or consistency to close out the big moments. That's the reality Dodgers fans are sitting with as winter approaches. Now here's where it gets interesting. Michael Kopech's name is back in the conversation. And I'm torn about how to feel. Remember 2024? The guy was electric. A 1.13 ERA that made every appearance feel like a victory lap. He looked like the closer this team had been searching for, the guy who could slam the door shut in the ninth and make us all breathe easy. He converted every single save opportunity, 6 for 6, and the energy he brought to that mound was infectious. For a moment there, it felt like Los Angeles had found something special. Then 2025 happened. Injuries derailed everything. Only 14 appearances all season. 14. And when the postseason arrived, when the team needed every available arm, Kopech wasn't there. The silence was deafening. It's one thing to struggle through a tough year, but it's another thing entirely to be absent when your team is fighting for survival. That contrast between what he was and what he became hit hard, and fans haven't forgotten. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. The front office is apparently considering bringing him back. According to reports from Noah Cameras, we're looking at a potential 2-year deal worth around $13.5 million, with an opt-out after the first season. On paper, it makes sense. The cost isn't outrageous. Kopech needs to rebuild his value after a lost season, and the Dodgers need reliable bullpen help. It's the kind of low-risk, high-reward gamble that Andrew Friedman has built his reputation on. So why does this feel so complicated? Because talent alone doesn't win championships. Availability does. Consistency does. And while Kopech has shown he can be dominant when healthy, that when healthy qualifier is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. The strikeout stuff is still there. The arsenal that made him dangerous hasn't disappeared. But can his body hold up over a full season? Can he be the guy the team leans on in September and October, or are we setting ourselves up for another year of what-ifs and missed opportunities? The fan reaction has been exactly what you'd expect. Half the base sees the upside and remembers those electric moments from 2024. The other half sees the injury history and worries we're chasing ghosts. And honestly, both sides have valid points. This is the kind of decision that could look brilliant or foolish depending on which way the dice roll. And that uncertainty is what makes this offseason so tense. What really gets me thinking is what this says about where the organization is right now. They're not going after the biggest names in free agency for the bullpen. They're looking at reclamation projects, at guys who've shown flashes but haven't put it all together yet. That tells me the front office believes they can develop and optimize these arms better than anyone else. Maybe they're right. The track record certainly supports that confidence. But it also means they're willing to accept some risk in pursuit of value, and that risk could come back to haunt them if things break the wrong way. Now, let's shift gears. Because while everyone's debating Kopech, the Dodgers already made their first move of the offseason. And it's the kind of trade that flies under the radar, but reveals everything about how this organization thinks. Tyler Goff is coming over from Seattle in exchange for Robinson Ortiz. And if you're not familiar with these names, you're not alone. These aren't household names. They're not going to sell jerseys or trend on social media. But this trade matters more than most people realize. Goff is 22 years old, still early in his development, but showing signs of real growth. He spent 2023 and 2024 working through single A ball, dealing with some injuries along the way, but putting together a 2024 season that caught attention. A 4.33 ERA, nearly 100 strikeouts, and his best whip to date. He didn't pitch in 2025 due to the injured list, which adds another layer of uncertainty. But the Dodgers clearly see something in him that's worth betting on. Ortiz, on the other hand, represents everything the organization claims to value. He was signed back in 2017 and has methodically worked his way through every level of the system. Last year was his breakout. He moved through high A, double A, and triple A, eventually earning a spot on the 40-man roster. That kind of progression doesn't happen by accident. It takes work, patience, and the kind of development infrastructure the Dodgers have spent years building. So why trade him now? That's the question that has me thinking. On the surface, it looks like Los Angeles is betting on ceiling over current production. Goff might have higher upside 3 to 5 years from now, even if Ortiz is the better player today. It's the kind of long-term thinking that separates good organizations from great ones. But it also means sacrificing something tangible for something theoretical. That's always a gamble. The emotional side of this trade hits differently for fans who follow the farm system closely. Ortiz was a symbol of resilience, a guy who kept fighting through every level, every setback, every moment when it would have been easier to give up. Seeing him leave stings because it feels like we're trading away that story, that journey, for an unknown commodity. Goff arrives as a mystery, someone we'll have to get to know, someone who might flourish or might fade. But here's what this trade really tells us. The Dodgers aren't content to just rely on their major league roster, no matter how talented it is. They're constantly churning the pipeline, looking for the next wave of contributors who can step in when injuries happen or performance dips. This isn't about 2026 or even 2027. This is about building a system that can sustain success over a decade or more. When you step back and look at both of these stories together, a pattern emerges. The Kopech situation and the Goff-Ortiz trade are two sides of the same coin. One is about trying to recapture something that worked before. The other is about betting on future potential. Both require faith. Both carry risk. And both will be judged not by what happens this winter, but by what happens when the games actually matter. This is what being a Dodgers fan means right now. It means trusting that the front office has a plan, even when that plan isn't immediately obvious. It means accepting that some moves will work and others won't, but that the overall trajectory is still pointing upward. It means living in that uncomfortable space between hope and doubt, where every decision feels like it could tip the scales one way or another. The offseason is just getting started, and already there's so much to unpack. Drop your thoughts below, because I want to know how you're feeling about all this. Are you sold on bringing back Kopech, or does the injury history worry you too much? And what about the Goff trade? Are we giving up on Ortiz too soon? Or is this the smart long-term play? Hit that like button if you're riding with this team through all the ups and downs, and let's see where this winter takes us.